Good morning, everyone. Namaskar, hello, and welcome. My name is Bhuvan. This is the Indian Express Explained for the 31st of October 2023. Let's get started. Right. So, well, if you have any particular doubts, go ahead, connect with me on my Instagram handle that goes by the name of Bhuvan StudyIQ. Okay. And if you have any say particular bigger long form questions or anything that you would say want to communicate to me, here is my email ID. Reach out to me for any particular doubts that you face in, say, CSAT, in geography, in international relations, or environment, as those are my areas of interest. Okay, let's go ahead. So, the first article that comes to you from the explained page of Indian Express. Coder Sriram, good morning, guys. How are you? Welcome, welcome. So, the first article that comes to us from the explained page of Indian Express is to do with electoral bonds. Today, a constitution bench being led by the Chief Justice of India, which means it's a 5-justice bench that is going to hear the final arguments in the case against, the whole deal, the matter against electoral bonds. So let's go ahead and revise firstly the whole issue of electoral bonds. Let's take a look at the pros, the cons, the point of view of each of the stakeholders. Okay. So let's look at the stakeholders now. First, let's identify them because that's the first part of any discussion. Your neighbor, good morning, how are you? Welcome, welcome. So the first stakeholder, let's see, should be my government. Fair enough. Thereafter, political parties, obviously. Third stakeholder, the Election Commission of India. Fourth stakeholder, RBI. Fifth stakeholder, well, the public, you and I. And say the activists that are representing the cause. Okay. So now once you understand that these are our stakeholders, we need to understand, say, the effect of the matter on each of them. Okay. So before that, let's understand what are electoral bonds. Now, quite simply put, electoral bonds are nothing but essentially they are bearer instruments. Okay. If you go ahead and understand exactly what are electoral bonds, they are interest-free bearer instruments. Okay. Which means what? It is payable to the bearer on demand. Whoever is carrying that bond gets paid. And it is similar to a promissory note or a P note, as you must have studied in your economics. Now that we understand the nature of electoral bonds, who can go ahead and buy it? Who can go ahead and get one of it? Right? So you need to be an Indian citizen. Okay. Or you need to be an Indian body, Indian organization, or an Indian subsidiary of a foreign body. Okay, of a foreign entity. All three can go ahead and get an electoral bond. Now, when this was introduced in, say, back in 2018, the whole point was that, well, the government wanted to bring some more accountability and transparency in the process. Earlier, you had, say, cash deposits that were accepted. Okay. So now this was, say, the government's method of streamlining political funding in the country. Okay. But then there are some problems with that. So let's understand what are the problems. Okay. So electoral bonds allow Indian citizens or a body incorporated in India to purchase bonds. So what are you essentially doing? You're enabling anonymous donations. Okay. So now you might be considering how. How is anonymous donations? Say you go to SBI. Are there no KYC there? Is that a question you must ask? So when we go to, say, the bank, we need to have our KYC norms fulfilled. Is that not required here? If that is the question, well, here is the answer. Okay. That you need to go ahead and, well, eventually you are looking at KYC that is a part of this process too. You see this? KYC norms are mandated as a part of this process. Okay. Now you can go ahead and, well, purchase them for any value in multiples of 1,000 essentially. From 1,000 to a crore, you go ahead and purchase them in any value. And you can purchase them only in the first 10 days of each quarter. Okay. So you have 4 quarters in the whole year, right? The 4 months being January, April, July and October. The first 10 days, go ahead. Get yourself all of the electoral bonds that you want to buy. Now, there is a caveat that these bonds that you are buying for political funding, okay, they have to be only for registered political parties. Okay. So you can't go ahead and say launch a party of your own today and then tomorrow you reroute your black money into that political party. It's not so easy. Okay. What you are going to do is you need to be a recognized political party, which means obviously that there are certain limits, certain number of seats, certain percentage of votes that you ought to have garnered or gathered in the last elections. Correct? Bulbul, Lindum, good morning guys. I hope you're catching the gist of it first. These are the facts of the case, the basics. So what is the Supreme Court listening at it? Now what is the Supreme Court examining here? They are looking at the petitions that are challenging the constitutional validity of the electoral bonds. Whether it is constitutionally valid, which is why you find that it has been referred to a constitutional bench, which means at least 5 judges of the Supreme Court will be a part of this bench, at least 5. Okay, that's the requirement of a constitutional bench, right? So let's go ahead then. Why were they introduced in the first place? Like I told you, the rationale, in fact, that time, the then finance minister Arun Jaitley, okay, late Arun Jaitley, he had said that, well, the whole point is to go ahead and get, well, political transparency. The transparency of funding should be maintained, right? The goal was also to achieve accountability, right? At the same time, it was to ensure that the interests of the political parties are also looked after. But please understand that, say, fair and, say, transparent donations is the backbone of any, say, strengthened political system, right? So that was the initial goal. Like I told you, political parties received earlier most of their funds through anonymous donations shown in cash. Correct? Why is it needed to buy bonds? Well, essentially, how are political parties going to raise money? Right, Rahul? Is that not a question? That how will they raise money? So obviously, say you have limits and caps that are put during the election process. You also need to maintain a cadre strength, right? So for that, you need capital. Political party does have a certain requirement of capital. But who is going to give that money? So earlier, it used to be in cash format. Now, they have gone ahead and done it through the State Bank of India, certain branches, right? Now, to answer your question more specifically, what was the process was, and this is what RBI observed, by the way, okay? RBI said that, well, why can't your electoral bonds be in, say, demat format? Why does it have to be in, say, physical format? Do you understand this? Why as physical formats, physical bonds, and not as, say, how you hold your shares in demat format? Okay, that was one of the arguments that was put forward by the RBI also, and the government said, well, no, that will again defeat the whole purpose of the process. Anyways, you are going through the SBI route, which means everything is on record. Do you understand that? Okay, Rahul, to answer your question. Now, consequently, you find that the Finance Acts went ahead and amended 4 separate legislations to make for the electoral bond scheme. So, what are the 4 separate legislations? Firstly, the FCRA, the Foreign Contribution Regulation Act. Then the Representation of People Act, specifically Section 29. Okay. The Income Tax Act and the Companies Act. All 4 of them were amended to ensure that, well, either individuals or Indian companies, organizations, trusts, bodies could go ahead and, well, engage in electoral bond political funding. Okay. So now, this is what is being, say, put forward by, say, Common Cause and Association of Democratic Reforms. These are the 2, say, prominent organizations that are leading this whole petitions against the electoral bonds. Okay. So this is what they say, that the present process is not transparent and in fact is reducing accountability. Correct. Now, you must be thinking, so is there no safeguard? Is there absolute lack of safeguard here? No. In fact, what you find is that a prominent safeguard that has been put forward in the electoral bonds is this. Have a look at this very carefully. It requires all the political parties who have received donations to submit to the Election Commission in a sealed cover the particulars of each of their donors. Correct? So, it's not just the name of the donor, but you're also looking at the amount of the donor. The amount has been donated, amount donated so far by the donor, okay, and the other KYC details, so the bank account, date of birth and all of that, right? This is submitted by the political party to the ECI. Bear in mind that, well, this information is also available with the SBI, which is the primary nodal point for this entire, say, exercise, right? So this is one of the safeguards that is put forward in this particular process. But the counterpoint is that since SBI has this information, can the ruling government get access to this information and know who is funding their opposition? right? So therein is a conflict also, that you have a government body that is looking after both the forward and the backward process here, right? So could a conflict of interest arise? Now, what is the Supreme Court going to decide on today? More importantly, let's understand that. Number one, like I told you, is the constitutional validity of the electoral bonds, right? And they're also looking at, this petition also says to declare all political parties as public offices. What would this mean, guys? If you declare all political parties as public offices, it essentially means they come under the Right to Information Act, right? So which means they have to go ahead and disclose all of their incomes, their expenditure. They will function as a public body then. Now the court is also going to adjudicate on this. So the two questions that the Supreme Court's constitutional bench, the 5-judge bench, is looking to go ahead and discuss, the final hearings are today, is to do with this. The constitutional validity of the electoral bonds, right? And whether, say, you can go ahead and consider your political parties as part of public bodies. Lekam, good morning. How are you? Welcome. Okay. These are the two questions that the Constitution bench is looking at today. Okay. Now, let's go ahead and understand the criticism of electoral bonds very, very quickly. Now, the primary criticism you must understand by now, firstly, is to do with a government-owned bank, well, having all the information of political funding, which again could be misused by the, say, government of the day to go ahead and find out who is funding the opposition, right? That is the primary criticism, that, well, conflict of interest arises, breach of faith is a possibility. So, party A might know who is funding party X, correct? So you might have, say, negative effects to be felt by those who are donating for party X, right? That is one key criticism. The next is the maximum limit of donation has been removed. So ideally for companies, what was said was that 7.5% of the net profits in the last 3 years, that used to be the maximum cap of donation, right? Now that has been removed. So that happens what? Eventually you are looking at large scale companies going and funding, and obviously that is a key area of concern. Okay. Anonymity of donors makes the process opaque. You do not know who is donating because again it's a bearer note. Well, that is what Lekam, that is what the whole Supreme Court, the Constitution bench is going to go ahead and adjudicate on whether it is indeed constitutional, whether does it fall on the realms of the Constitution, right? And most importantly, look at this. So you have notes, the bonds that go from 1,000 rupees to, say, 1 crore rupees. Now the expectation was that the common person will go ahead and use all of this to go, well, fund the political party of their choice. That was the expectation. However, the truth is, the reality is that you find most of the donations have been of the highest denomination, rupees 1 crore. You realize this, the maximum is of 1 crore, 90%. So what does that tell you? That, say, the goals, the policy's goal to include the common man in the realm of political funding right now is not being met. It is possibly being used by, say, large multinationals or large organizations or large companies, obviously, correct? You are not going to go ahead and have 1 crore lying around in your own house to go ahead and fund to a political party, right? Now what does the donor get in return? So you can go ahead and claim IT exemption, right? You go ahead and get exemptions, tax rebates, benefits. That is what you get to claim after you have gone ahead and donated to a political party. Do you realize? So political parties are volunteer organizations. How come they come under public authority? Sriram, that is what the Supreme Court is looking to adjudicate on. Whether they are just a group of individuals with a common ideology, or are they indeed an inherent intrinsic part of the country's political process and thereby the democratic ethos. Correct? And so whether their information is of relevance to the public, how much are they earning, how much are they spending, where are they spending, all of those questions, are they relevant to the public as key information before they make their decision to vote? All of those are key questions that the Supreme Court will look at today. Understanding it, guys? Okay. So, like I told you, here have a look at this entire infographic that is present here, and you must be these are, say, the primary facts. Okay, quite easily you have understood all of them, but the key questions that you need to understand in terms of the constitutionality, okay, whether it is indeed constitutional, and whether the larger question is, say, well, political parties, can you consider them as public institutions? Okay, can you do that? These are the two questions that the Supreme Court is looking to adjudicate on today. Right, my friends, go ahead, answer these very, very easy questions that I have for you today. Okay, leave your answers for me in the comment box like you have been doing. I'm extremely pleased with the participation. Question number 1, part A, recognition in 4 or more states. Part B, at least 4 MPs in Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. Part C, 1 seats in at least 4 states. Which of the above are criteria for the recognition of a national political party? This has been a question that has figured previously in the classes. So I'm hoping that, well, those who have attempted the question previously will get it easily. Those who have not, try it. And question number 2, a brand new question. Comprise at least 3 SC judges, decide any case involving a substantial question of law as to the interpretation of the Constitution. And statement C, decide on any case for the purpose of hearing any reference made by the President under Article 143. Remember, guys, remember polity, right? So regarding constitutional bench of the HC, which of the above is or are incorrect? Let me know. Okay, we have discussed constitutional benches. So, well, when can you have a case, a particular, say, dispute being considered under the constitutional bench of the Supreme Court? Well, there are just 2 conditions. Okay, let's go. Let me know. And which effect does it give to? Here is one more. This entire constitutional bench is giving effect to which provisions? 145, 146, 147, 148. Let me know that too. Let me know this too. This is question 2B. Okay. I've told you that, well, this is under Article 143. Let me know which provision is it giving effect to? 143, 144, 145, 146, 147, 148. ठीक है? चलो आगे बढ़ते हैं. So this was the first topic related to electoral bonds, the case coming up today. Okay, so whatever the decision is, we'll obviously take an extensive look at in the coming classes. Now, for those of you who are preparing for next year or the year after that, this is a good time to start preparing. It's in fact never too early to start preparing for civil services, especially if you are in the pre-final or final year of your college, your degree. Okay, and what will be suggested is that in case if you are looking to go ahead and prepare for 2025, right? Now would be a good time to start, and more so if you get started in the digital format. Okay, so let's look at this GS Foundation Prelims to Interview course. We have had fantastic, in fact, I must be thankful to the student community who have come forward in hordes to be a part of this program, right? Multiple batches are currently underway in the Prelims to Interview scheme, and this is one of the final batches, in fact, that is coming up in the process for next year, in fact, with extended validity time. So you're looking at 18 months, 30 months, 42 months, depending on your time frame. Go ahead, look at the course deliverables, look at the faculty profiles. I am responsible for geography, CSAT and environment along with IR, right? And my esteemed colleagues will take care of the other subjects for you. This is this extensive hand-holding process right from the prelims up until the interview stage. Okay, comes to you in 3 languages, Hindi, English and bilingual. Right. So go ahead, look at the course description. You'll find the sign up link in the description box below. First, take a look at the course description. Okay. Look at the entire objective of the course. Okay. Look at, say, student feedback, and then take an informed decision, And if you're preparing yourself, my best wishes. Feel free to approach me regardless if you have any particular doubts. Meanwhile, for those of you who are signing up, which I strongly advise you to do, use the code BALIVE. You get allotted to my batch. So if you understand the way we communicate here, this question-based learning focus that we have early morning, this is one option that you must seriously consider. Right, next topic, my friends. This comes to you from Down to Earth, by the way. Okay. The Down to Earth portal has this article. So I thought we'll go a little, just pivot a bit from Indian Express and take a look at a very important article. Okay. Are you guys following this? I can't see the chat moving too much today. Or is it too cold already? 1 second, let me see the chat. Nevertheless. Chalo. ठीक है. Alright, let's look at this now. Plastic pellets on the beaches of Maharashtra. Should we be worried? One key term you must remember, guys. Nurdles. So, in the past classes, we have discussed extensively on microplastics, right? We have discussed what are microplastics, that they have been found everywhere across the ocean, seas, land, even in, say, the fetal environment. Yeah, the most say sacred environment that could be possible, and yet you find that microplastics have been found there. Microplastics have been found in our bloodstream, right? So what are plastic pellets then? Firstly, understand this. Microplastics are the larger category. Plastic pellets is one example in that largest category. Okay. So plastic pellets are also called as nurdles. They are small lentil-sized pieces of plastic. Essentially, they are the fundamental building blocks for plastic products. So for a change, guys, for a change, here is a plastic product for which you and I are not responsible, thankfully. Okay. This product, nurdles, is the fundamental building block of plastic products, and you find that the companies, the manufacturers are the most guilty when it comes to the supposed emission of plastic nurdles in the ecosystems, in our atmosphere. Okay. So let's look at it. Nurdles are, by the definition, they are a microplastic. They are very small, as you can understand. If they are a microplastic, which means they are of very small dimensions. They are pellets made up of plastics, but they are not generated as a result of littering by citizens. Extremely important. Remember this. Okay, this is where you will get caught, because the instinct will be that anything plastic, which means you and I are responsible. Thankfully, here is one for which we are directly not responsible. Okay. So plastic pellets are manufactured by these industries. They are essentially acting as raw material. Understand it simple. They are raw materials for other plastic products. Okay. So you look at these. These are the nurdles that I'm talking about. So how do they eventually find their way into our, say, ecosystems, in our oceans, on our land? How does it finally get there? Let's understand how nurdles end up in the oceans first. So ideally, you're looking at two ways, okay? Nurdles can enter our earth through two ways. One is through land-based spillage, okay? And the second one is on ocean spillage. Two places where it can be finally let go of. These are the, say, entry points, okay? So when nurdles spill into the ground, well, after that, they will eventually interact with water, and thus they will get runoff and enter our oceans. Eventually, they enter our oceans. And how about ocean then? How are they getting to the ocean in the first place? So Phil, now that you understand that they are the primary building block or the fundamental product for the plastic industry, so you must understand that, well, it means that it is important for the plastic industry, which means what? That you will have trade of plastic pellets. Country A is sending plastic pellets to country B because it is the fundamental building block for making more plastic products in country B. Correct? So now, if you understand here is one concept that you need to be aware of. Let's look at nurdles. I have told you that they are microplastics. Now, in terms of plastics, you know that they are polymers. Correct? Polymers essentially of 3-4 types, if you want to go ahead and categorize them. Okay, 3-4 types. So you're looking at, well, polyethylene is one polymer that is used. Okay, you are looking at polypropylene. Okay, polyvinyl chloride. These are the 6 prominent ones that are used in making our plastic products. Is there one more that you can tell me very quickly? I have given you 3 of them: polyethylene, polypropylene, okay, polyvinyl chloride. You also have, if I'm not mistaken, it is called as polystyrene. Okay, so these are the main polymers that form a part of my pellets, okay, also called as nurdles. Correct? So now what you find is that this is, say, the chemical composition that I've just put before you. Okay, the chemical composition is this. Now, let's go ahead and understand, since they are getting shipped across the ocean, obviously there is a problem of ship spillage. It might fall onto the ocean from the ship through containers. You have a container that is drifting in the ship carrying large amount of nurdles. Eventually, it is spilling into the ocean. A similar case happened off the coast of Sri Lanka itself in 2021. Yes, I hope yes. Express Pearl. This went ahead. 1680 tons of nurdles spilled into the ocean onto the shores of Sri Lanka. Largest ever spillage, in fact. Okay. Now here is the key thing. If this is such a big problem, if it is indeed a microplastic that is entering our earth system from both land and the oceans, is there a central, global law, global rule to go ahead and manage this issue? Unfortunately, no. Here is a very key important fact. As of today, my friends, okay, the International Maritime Organization, IMO, it does not have any specific rules regarding plastic pellet management. This is one of the key criticisms, or in fact a policy lacuna that you can understand insofar as understanding plastic pellets is concerned. Okay. So key things, let's go ahead and revise one by one. Number one, they are microplastics. Number two, they are entering from both land and sea. Number three, you and I are not responsible for them. It is the companies, the organizations that are into plastic manufacturing and plastic product manufacturing. And number four that you need to know is that, well, the International Maritime Organization does not have any particular rules that govern plastic pellet or nurdles management. Got it? Okay. So let's look at it. The international trade of nurdles. Since I told you that because they are the raw material for plastic product and their formation, so the international trade. The 5 major exporters, let's have a look at them. Here are your 5 major exporters, by the way. Okay. You're looking at US. Okay. China is there, Saudi, UAE, Singapore, okay, UAE. All of these are the primary exporters. Okay. India is in fact the 6th largest importer. This is it. We are the 6th largest importer. Now because the trade is happening of pellets, okay, and where is the trade happening from? Through land, obviously you have, say, through rail and road, fine. But through oceans, you are looking at particular shipping routes. And what you find is that these shipping routes are the ones that are letting go of most of my nurdle spillage onto the oceans. Okay, so the prominent shipping routes, think of it. What are the prominent shipping routes? Say from Strait of Malacca, prominent choke point, prominent shipping route. Panama Canal, prominent choke point, prominent shipping route. Right, Bab al-Mandeb, prominent shipping point, prominent choke point. Correct? So you find that all of there, this is the primary areas of contamination. Now here is another fact. Plastic industry has 13,000 chemicals that it uses. 24% of them are of concern to humankind, and out of those 24%, only 1% is regulated by any multilateral agreement. So you have the Stockholm Convention, Minamata for mercury, Montreal for ozone, right? So you have, like the problem, IMO, the International Maritime Organization, it does not have any rules. And it is also outside the scope of the existing multilateral framework. So what can you expect in the coming days, guys? That you will have rules regarding this framed. This is obviously an area of immense environmental concern. Got it? Okay. Look at this. These are the prominent shipping routes that you are looking at. The acute spillage areas. Just north of South China Sea, near Sri Lanka, near our port, just off the coast of Gujarat, okay, UAE. You are looking at spillage happening along the shipping routes as you would expect, because this is a part of the international trade. Okay? Go ahead, answer these questions too for me. Question number 3 and 4. Very quickly. Question number 3. Polyethylene, polysaccharide, polypropylene, polyvinyl chloride. How many of the above is or are polymers? 1 only, 2 only, 3 only, all 4. We discussed the answer, so it should be relatively easy. Question number 4. Extended producer responsibility, circular economy, mass awareness program, subsidies to plastic manufacturing industry. Which of the above can help reduce plastic pollution? Okay. Let me know your answers. A only, B and C, A, B and C, or B, C and D. Easy questions, no guys? Right? Just let me know. Obviously, you should be aware of the meaning of each of them. What is EPR? What is circular economy? But for the time being, just let me know which of these will help reduce plastic pollution. Okay. Any doubts regarding whatever we discuss here today? Go ahead and connect with me on my Instagram ID that goes by the name of Bhuvan StudyIQ. Right. So the last topic that I have picked from the Telegraph. Okay. Because I couldn't find any mention of it in today's Indian Express. And well, it's an important article. We need to have a good look at it. Is it clear, guys? The second topic, plastic pellets. Clear है ना? कोई problem होगा हमको please पूछिए. ठीक है? Now let's look at this. Indian physicists break 200-year-old heat engine barrier. What is heat engine essentially? First, let's understand the non-science students. Heat engine, simple. It is something that is converting what? Heat energy into mechanical energy. That is all. Okay, that is essentially a heat engine. Okay. Now, what is a Carnot's engine then, or a Carnot's theorem? What does it talk about? So, firstly, it was proposed by Leonard Carnot, and it essentially says that the maximum possible efficiency that a heat engine during this process, no. So, if I were to go ahead and understand Carnot's cycle for you, or Carnot's engine for you, okay, the best understanding, best example is this. Okay, this process of heat to mechanical energy, this conversion, right? Carnot's engine says that this process of heat energy to the mechanical energy, this conversion process, okay, there is only a maximum possible efficiency. That is it, right? You cannot go ahead and have a fully efficient or more efficient, this process. There will be a maximum efficiency, okay, that can just exist in this process. That's all, a maximum possible efficiency. Now, scientists have been figuring out how to go ahead and achieve the maximum possible efficiency. Can you have a 100% efficient system, which means that there are no losses, no energy losses? Well, that is not going to happen, right? So, in terms of the laws of thermodynamics, so you have the zeroth law, the first law, second law, third law, you find that the Carnot cycle or the Carnot's engine is in sync with the second law of thermodynamics. Okay? So, let's understand what is Carnot cycle. It is an ideal, reversible, closed thermodynamic cycle. Okay. So, in Carnot cycle, guys, 4 processes here. Just make a note of it if you are writing down. Carnot cycle has 4 different processes that you need to be aware of. Okay. That's all you need to know. And then we'll understand what the scientists at the Indian Institute of Science have done. Okay. So, Carnot cycle has 4 processes that you need to be aware of. Okay. First is obviously isothermal expansion. Okay. First you have isothermal expansion. Okay. All of this is happening within that conversion from heat to mechanical. Okay. First isothermal expansion. Then you have adiabatic expansion. Okay. Adiabatic expansion. Then you have isothermal compression. And finally, what would you expect, guys? Tell me. After isothermal compression, finally you are looking at, eventually the last process is what? Adiabatic compression. Yahi to bacha. Right? So this is it. These 4 processes are making up my Carnot cycle. This conversion process, the maximum efficiency. Okay. So now what the scientists at Indian Institute of Bangalore have done, Indian Institute of Science in Bangalore have done. Okay. Let's look at it. All heat engines are currently limited by Carnot's maximum efficiency rule, that there is only a certain limit, and above that you are not going to have, well, no more efficiency after that. If you have tried to do it, no, attempts to increase a heat engine's efficiency lowers its power. So you have a drop in power. If you go past Carnot's efficiency rule, you find that, well, your power drops. A super efficient heat engine is expected to have negligible power and therefore be unusable. Okay? So now what do these scientists at IISc did? They eventually, this gas fuel mixture that is required for heat to mechanical energy process, the fuel for it, right? So they replaced this fuel. Their fuel was essentially a colloidal bead. It's like a gel. Understand it as a gel. So they focused laser beams on the gel. Okay? Laser beams on the gels mimic the movement of the piston and the cylinder. ठीक है? इसके चलते क्या हुआ? What happened because of this? They found that the efficiency of the engine could be steadily increased to approach the Carnot limit, the maximum efficiency. Right? So now this has been shown on an experimental scale. You realize this has happened in a lab. For several years, in fact, hundreds of years, what you find is that, well, people have been trying to go ahead and achieve, can you breach Carnot cycle? They have been using different processes, different raw materials, minerals, all of that has been used. Now the problem is what? That on an experimental scale, You have achieved, say, the desired result. But can you go ahead and scale this entire process and have a system that can be there for public access? That is the challenge here, guys. I'm sure you must be realizing this. That it is different to do it in a lab, and then to have a publicly accessible product is a completely different responsibility. Samajh rahe ho? So this is what has happened. Our scientists at IISc, using a colloidal bead, which is like a gel-like substance, they went ahead, focused a laser beam on it, mimicked the movement of the piston and the cylinder, and thus they found that in the presence of an electrical field, okay, the engine's efficiency was being steadily increased to approach the Carnot's limit. This is essentially it. Chaliye bataiye bhai. Question number 5. Heat engine's efficiency can be determined by what? Efficiency is to do with what? The physics students will answer this very quickly. The non-science students might find it little difficult, but tell me, how do you determine if a person is efficient or not? By the, say, output versus input, right? How much of understanding are you getting in an hours of study? Is your operational efficiency of study? Apply that simple thing and let me know. Net work input by total heat input output, total heat output by net work input, net work output by total heat input, or total heat input by net work output. And last question, Carnot's rule is based on what? You will let me know. We discussed this. ठीक है? Attempt this question. Please do. Question number 5 and 6. Right. So let's look at the questions of yesterday now. कल वाले सवाल भी देख डालते हैं फटाफट. Hypertension can be confirmed using a sphygmomanometer is essentially correct. Sphygmomanometer is how you go ahead and measure your blood pressure. Okay. Diuretics, which eliminate excess water from the body, will they lower your blood pressure or increase your blood pressure? They will eventually lower your blood pressure is absolutely correct. Both being true here. Okay. Systolic pressure is always higher than diastolic pressure. Yesterday we looked at it. So your blood pressure is written as something like this, right? This is your systolic pressure. This is your diastolic pressure. Systolic is when your heart is beating. Okay. Diastolic pressure is when your heart is at rest. Okay. Hypertension leads to building up of fatty material, also known as atherosclerosis, is absolutely correct. So the incorrect statements here being none. Okay. Under which article may an individual approach the Supreme Court if his or her right has been unduly deprived? Well, constitutional remedies, Article 32. Simple, straightforward question here. Okay. The Supreme Court shall have the power to issue directions or orders or writs under Article 32 for the enforcement of rights confirmed by Part 3 is absolutely true. Now this question many of you got incorrect. I wonder why. What was the trouble in this question, guys? How many of you got or answered only A here? Okay. So please understand, let's look at, see, the different writs that we have. We have habeas corpus. Okay. What are the different writs? Very quickly, let me know. We have mandamus, prohibition, certiorari. Right? Let's understand this question. Why did many of you get this incorrect? Okay. Is this not it? So now what is mandamus? Mandamus means what essentially? We command. So in this case, the court is going and addressing what? Essentially a public civil servant, a public government servant. We command. Mandamus is essentially this, someone who has refused their duty. ठीक है? Prohibition now. What does prohibition mean? To forbid. Which means what? Higher court to lower court. Fine. Higher to lower court. ठीक है? What about certiorari, guys? Certiorari is what? To be informed, certified, no, essentially. That is the meaning. So once again, higher court to lower court. Correct? Higher court or higher tribunal to lower tribunal. Whereas habeas corpus means show me the body. Where is the individual? So it can be given to both public as well as private. So now the question asks you, habeas corpus is the only writ that can be issued both against public authorities as well as private individuals. Is absolutely correct. It's not incorrect. Correct? In fact, it's a previous year question from UPSC. Right? So the correct statements here being both. Okay, pay attention. In fact, look at the points of divergence of international, say, different rates. So Crystal, Sohail आंसर करना था आपने भी. मोनिका, पूजा, गोपेश, लेकम, मनदीप, नीरजा, तन्वी, शुभम, विदिशा, कोडर, वेल डन. आरती, सत्यव्रता, रिविजिट, तनीश, वैष्णवी, करुणा, आयुष, आदित्य, अक्षय, अभिषेक एंड राहुल. वेल डन गाइस. ठीक है. Continue answering the questions. You will see the questions are not usually taken from any question bank or this or that. Okay. Original questions to test your understanding of the topics that we do here in the morning. Right. Leave your answers to today's questions. Today I have given you 1 to 5 questions. Okay. Leave your answers in the comment box. If you have any particular feedback for me, you can let me know in the comment box, or you can reach out to me on my Instagram ID. And if you would so desire to have access to the entire lecture that we discussed here today, well, head over to my Telegram channel and you will find the PDF uploaded at around, well, normally around noon is when I do it. Okay, scan this, become a part of my Telegram channel. We also have a monthly giveaway of books that we do. So, well, November 1 is coming soon. On that note, it's a wrap, my dear friends. Thanks all of you for joining me live this morning. Answer the questions, and I'll see you tomorrow morning 7 a.m. with another set of important topics. More importantly, questions. Okay, topics are fine. More importantly, questions need to be solved because your selection depends on your ability to solve questions. Okay. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a productive day. I'll see you tomorrow.